So I'm not going to preach. I'm not going to teach. I'm just going to make fun of everyone. That's what I'm good at. So I'm not going to too, so I'm going to stoop down to the lowest level. All right, so first, I'm sarcastic, right, guys? Just so you guys know. I'd like to thank my wife for stealing all the quotes. They cut down my portion to like half. My mom for asking me to teach the Sunday that I was available, which was the second to the last Sunday of the month, which is not this Sunday. So the wrong one. And my mother-in-law for still being alive. Thank you so much for fighting a good fight. All right. Let's see. So I'm going to talk about different things. As you guys know, I am by nature like an emotional person, right? So if I cry, I'm still like down with love, or else I'll pop up, but I cry. And just so you guys know, like how my dad was saying that Victor looks more like him. He came in like white, and now he looks like that. That's not his natural hair color. He came in white. And then definitely. So blood in, blood out. I came in white and left milkweed, so this is like the nature of the game. So today I'm going to talk about something that's been on my heart personally, which is, when we look at the church, we have to look at two things. And it's important for the leaders here, and it's important for the people that are following the leaders, because like my wife said, we're all, in a sense, leaders of the world. But in the church, there's a reason why you're here, and there's a reason why you have the people that you have in your life. And the big part of that is looking at the way disciples follow and the way that Jesus led. And when we look at the mentality of the way that we're supposed to learn is, as disciples, we should have a humbleness to us in order to learn. So when our mentality as followers of Christ and disciples of a person that's in our church or in our ministries, we should have that all the pride has to go out the window. All the ability to say, you know what, today I'm going to learn something from somebody. And that should be the part that we're humble about. The second part is being hungry for knowledge. And knowing that, you know what, in that humbleness, I do want to learn today. I do want to get something out of my relationship with God. And my relationship with God and with almost everyone is based on someone who introduced that God to you, right? So, one of those things aside from that is how to feed the hunger, which is when we're looking at our relationship with God and figuring out how do we stay humble and how do we stay hungry for God. And part of that is we have to continue to feed ourselves with the things that are of God. So things that are on TV, things that are on YouTube. For myself, I love watching YouTube videos, and I watch YouTube videos on different teachers, different speakers, like poetry, spoken word, all that stuff, because that's what feeds the soul, and that's what keeps me like, hey, you know what, those things inspire me.
Yes.
But in that same token, and I've talked about this before, is if you want the meat, you have to learn how to hunt. Pastor, my dad, he's here to give you guys the word, right? And sometimes it's milk, and sometimes it's meat. But we can't expect that our only source of what God's our relationship with God is going to be only fed through Him. Yes. We have to search in ourselves and search in our relationship with God through the Bible, through reading. It's funny because T.D. Jakes had said something about a church that it was called Grace Church, and he's like, it's ironic that they're called Grace Church because they weren't a church of grace. Like they were very like there was no grace to be given in there, And this is a church, Praise Chapel, And so in that we have to look for the things that we praise. This is what this is where you're at. This is where you call your home. So that's what you have to live in your relationship with God and through your relationship with God. for leaders, the mentality should be grace, compassion, and courage. So in those three things, you have to embody them. As Jesus was to the disciples, he showed grace, and he showed compassion, and he showed courage. And that's going to be the main point of this next, of the topic, okay? So the first thing is how the disciples followed. And for example, have you guys ever been to a training or an instructional video? Like, I myself draw. So when I watch videos of how to draw, I feel like the first 30 minutes, I'm like, I already know how to do that, I already know how to do that, I already know how to do that, right? With music, if they're like, you didn't get the string, and you're like, oh, I already know how to do that, right? So with work, you go to a training and you're like, yeah, I already do that, right? And we already shut ourselves down from that. Yeah. Well, I want you to think of it like this. There is perceptions of God, and there is different things that people have taken away from the Bible. And sometimes we get stuck in the way that we think God works, and the way that we think Jesus lived, and the way that we think the Bible was written. But there's a point in our own obedience that we have to listen to whatever the Word of God is, and taking it as, well, you know what? I do know how to do this, but I'm here to learn. And as a follower of Christ, that's what I'm going to be doing. For myself, I was being helped by another artist, and he asked me to do some samples, and I did the samples, and I gave it to him, and he kind of gave me feedback. And this is when I started doing this as a full-time career. He gave me some feedback on it, and I thought the feedback wasn't for me. I was like, well, the stuff that he was saying, he was kind of going at it with a different angle, kind of like the way he draws, and he was kind of correcting the stuff that I did, and I was like, well, you're kind of correcting him to your style, not my style, And so I kind of shut down, because I was like, well, I appreciate that guy helping me, but he's kind of helping me to kind of draw like him, right? So, he's still my friend, and I had kind of closed that door a little bit. But then a couple of days later, I was thinking to myself, my friend's a professional artist, and I'm not, right? And so, with that, I looked back at the pages, and I thought, he did something that got him there. He did something that was right to get him that spot. And I had to throw away my conceptions of how I draw, because I was like, well, we draw differently, and I do it just fine, so why do I have to change it? Well, because he's doing it and I'm not. And in our relationship with God, there is people that are leaders and there's people that are not, right? And we have to find out what type of trials that they went through, the hardships that they went through, because being a leader of a church is not easy, guys. It's not. From every single, from the kids to the worship to offering, whatever it is you guys do, you guys know it's stressful. And there's hardships that you guys had to endure to get through that, to be here today. And so as followers, if those are your person, and if that's your ministry, look at your leader and say, you know what? I shut myself down to what you're saying sometimes, but what you're saying got you to where you're at, right? Yes. Don't worry, we're going to get some pastors later. Mad dogging everybody. So sometimes we have to get rid of the mentality of thinking we know better. I'd like to tell you a story of my fight with the devil. Well, that was my mother-in-law. So I was at the house, and it's in the morning on Saturday, and my wife's favorite thing when she's working is for me to make breakfast on Saturday, right? I don't think she likes the food, she just doesn't want to cook. She's like, oh my God! So the devil, my mother-in-law, she comes over, right? And we're about to make food, and Jen's like, oh my God, you have to try his pancakes. And the girls are like, yeah, he makes good pancakes, right? So that's the little talk of the town, and I was like, I'm the pancake maker, And my mother-in-law was like, oh, you're going to make me pancakes, Neil? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make you pancakes, right? So, if you guys don't know my mother-in-law, let me tell you a little side story. If you're at a restaurant, okay, this is her. Preach. Should I get the flautas or tamales? Flautas out. I like the tamales. Then she asked the waiter, which one? The flautas? Oh, okay. So then it's back and forth, right? And then somebody goes, you should get the tamales, they're good. And then she's like, oh, okay. Right? So the waiter comes and she goes, the menudo. The menudo comes, she'll look at it, she's like,
I'm charging you, you know.
That's not the way we menudo. And she doesn't like the food. And she goes, I should have got the flautas. And then it's somebody's fault. I don't know whose fault it is. It's somebody's fault. So, my mother-in-law, I'm like, Mr. Lumberjack, I'm like, I'm gonna make some pancakes, I'm like, I'm right there, and she goes, you use water? Yes, I do use water. Thank you. And then, I'm mixing it still, and then she goes, you don't put milk? And I'm like, no, just, I'm making you the pancakes, just water. She's like, okay. And then I'm like pouring it, she goes, they look thin. I'm like, it won't be thin, it'll get fluffy. And then she goes, you should put vanilla, you don't have vanilla. I'm like, no, we don't have vanilla. She's like, look at my calendar, we don't have vanilla. I know for a fact you don't have vanilla. I give up, and I just go to my studio. I'm like, no, I'm just going to draw, forget it. So, sometimes, she never experienced the blessing. That's how we live our Christianity. That's how we live through our leadership and through being a disciple of God. Is that we don't put the time into learning what somebody wants to teach us because we're like, oh, I know how to do it. You don't have to tell me how to serve God. I know how to serve God, right? And so we kind of close ourselves to not being willing to look at those things and being in a situation where we don't want to learn. So don't think that you can teach and don't think that you can minister to people without going through it first. Because the thing is that when we get to leadership is that you're going to miss the parts that you needed to experience as someone who followed by becoming just a leader and not following yourself. All right. So the second thing is trust. And so looking at trust, sometimes we look at things in with our own eyes, and we can kind of like rationalize why things don't work. Right? And kind of like going back to the guy that was helping me with the drawing is I didn't trust what he was telling me. I wanted to learn. I got through step one. I wanted to learn, but then it became time to trust what he was telling me. And I didn't want to take that information because I thought, again, it was like my own pride was there. I wasn't humble, and I was hungry but not humble in what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. And so we look at Jesus, and at the garden, he's praying for the things that are about to occur before his crucifixion. And he's asking, man, God, like, if these things cannot happen, like, that would be so great. Like, I can live in, but ultimately he said, but if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do, right? And as a leader, he made that relationship, his feedback didn't come from another disciple. He didn't, what do you think, man? Should I just not do it? No, his relationship and his answers, they came straight from God. Right. Just like how in our relationship and the people that we look at as our leaders, that's their relationship with God, right? So the guards come, right? Judas, snitched them out. The guards come to pick him up, right? Now he's set in, I know what I'm doing. And I know I have to go through this. Everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen. This is God's will, right? Now, to the disciples, they may think, like, this is not God's will. Like, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're crazy, Pastor.